have a question, write it down, raise your hand, we'll come, bring them up to the front. But we are like in fantastic company. I, for one, am very excited. I'd like to thank our community icons because they are actually icons for joining us today. I'm going to let each of them talk a little bit about themselves. But again, we've got Dr. Chris Saintville from the University of Buffalo. He's a associate professor in the School of Social Work. We have Dion Green, founder of the Fudge Foundation. We have Grima Morris, founder of Bury the Violence. And then Paula Spiro, who is director of Brave/SNUG. So I would appreciate it if, starting with Dr. Saintville, you just, again, introduce yourself, explain a little bit about your work, and then our young people and our other attendees, our young at heart attendees, as we'll say, can write down any questions that they have, and we'll come around and collect those, read those out.
How's everyone doing? My name is Chris Saintville. I'm an associate. Hi. How's everybody doing? My name is Chris Saintville, and I'm an associate professor in the School of Social Work at the University of Buffalo. My work revolves around violence prevention. Most of my work deals with young black men and trying to keep them from engaging in violence and stay out of trouble and stuff, for the most part, in a nutshell. And I work with SNUG and Brave as well, and trying to help improve their program so that we can work with you guys, you know what I mean, and helping improve the community and create other opportunities so folks can stay away from firearms. So that's a little bit about me.
Can you share what SNUG and Brave stand for?
SNUG, Should Never Use Guns, is a community violence prevention program where we got guys from the community, like Will, guys from the community, from your community, to basically step up and try to mediate beef so that we don't have to deal with the police. So basically, SNUGs try to mediate beefs to keep police out of it and work with the kids to resolve their conflict on their own. Brave, Buffalo Rising Against Violence, is the hospital-based violence response. So it's the first step. If you have an injury as a result of violence, when you come to the hospital, Will be the first one that approach you at bedside to talk to you about the situation and figure out a way to prevent you from experiencing another victimization to get out the hospital.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Karima Morris. I am the executive director and founder of Bury the Violence. We initially started out finding missing, runaway, trafficked, and exploited individuals in our community, with relocating over 200 families since then, with the loss of my 13-year-old niece, Lanasia Rollerson, who was murdered, and the Buffalo police refused to help us. So we stepped in and did it ourselves, and then they finally came in and located her body. So therefore, we initiated, because we never want another family to feel at a loss without a voice. Every missing person matters. And with every missing person comes a situation. It could be domestic violence, it could be sexual assault, it could be trafficking, it could be they're being exploited, it could be they ran away. But for every person, it's a story attached. And so we have many intersects with what we do, because we have to holistically serve you, resolving whatever issue it is as to why your situation even exists. And along with these great organizations, I reach out to them because we don't have the resources, so we use the resources that are here. Yes, honey. One more time, Matt.
When did that incident happen?
2013, my niece. Yeah.
What was the question?
When did that incident happen? When did my niece get murdered, right? Yep. 2013. So I think it was September. It was around Labor Day, right before you guys go back to school. So it took them 3 days to come in and help us to locate her body, right where we knew she was. We just didn't know she was dead in the backyard. I didn't see any hands. My body isn't mobile as I would like for it to be right now.
Is that okay?
Yes. So I was informed by the mayor that I was not to kick in another door or run up in anybody else's house. And I said, if you want me to stop, you get out here. And that's just what it is. So that's basically it. And so we do now advocate for families of domestic violence and homicide. Also, we have a youth group that we're just starting, Peace and Range, where we help to connect the community with nature so youth can have another outlet and know that it's just not their community that exists, but there's actually outside where you can plant your feet, exhale, and take another onset and a different look at life. And then I'm USA Today Woman of the Year for New York State from the work that I've done.
All right, I don't know if I'm as loud as Chris, but Karima, you're also being modest. So one of the things that we've partnered with Karima is you are an amazing voice for the community, and we haven't talked about gun violence and domestic violence really. And so I would say here at the hospital, when we see gun violence, we also see it in relation to pretty severe domestic violence situations with guns in the home. So that's sort of another intersection. It's not necessarily what we do all the time, but Karima, because of her credibility in the community, really gives permission for folks to partner and get resources they need that your organization might have, but you can help speak for them. So I mean, that's a huge way that we all collaborate. You've heard, I mean, Willie did an amazing job talking about SNUG, but just really quick, so you're at our level 1 trauma center. We know in Buffalo as well as Niagara Falls, this is where patients come. We wanted to change the experience of patients who were victims of violence, gun violence, stabbing, because what would happen? You'd have this incident happen and you would go back to the community, back to maybe the things that impacted your life. So how do we provide services that folks want and engage in, and that includes everything from mental health services. So, you know, people don't necessarily want that or don't have buy-in or what's it gonna do for me? And so having someone like Willie and Dr. King, who's our psychologist, help get that buy-in, help recover from the injuries, and go through those ups and downs, you know, the anger, the frustration, the sadness. We also work with the families that are here visiting their loved ones. And the idea is it's a public health response to gun violence, you know, bringing in experts, bringing in credible folks from the community to help change that trajectory. And, you know, that includes, you'll probably see SNUG, our street outreach folks at the train station out in the community, really trying to do mediations, and we have participants. Our target audience is age 14 to 25, so youth that are potential carriers or involved in gun violence. Everything from, Willie, did you talk, I don't even remember, various, you know, activities, changing the norm. You know, that can be anything. Willie took a bunch of our participants to the extreme games in Lake Placid. So what does it look to have these experiences, get out of Buffalo, but also still be invested in our community for change? Oh, you.
Once again, my name is Dion Green, CEO and founder of the Fudge Foundation. As I said, my foundation was created due to a bill that every state in the United States have. It's called VOCA, Victim of Crime Compensation Bill, which I fought in Ohio to change. That's what created my foundation. In Ohio, when I changed that law, I got all the restrictions taken off of that, made it retroactive for 3 years and stuff like that. You know, as I said, my father was denied that for being 9 years and 6 months clean without being in trouble, and you had to be 10. So, but also a lot of survivors from that shooting was being denied. So that made me look into it. But then as I looked into it, a lot of the denial part is in the Black and brown community. So I changed that. My foundation is, I stand for all, I fight for all, but I also know that my communities have to fight a little bit harder, so I'm always the voice for the voiceless. And I'm always going to stand up and speak. So I always challenge those bills that are being passed through, whether it's state or federal, to see how things transpire throughout our community. I have mentorship programs. As I said, I mentor over 2,000 kids on gun violence prevention. I have them throughout the school. As she was saying, I try to take my kids out of that circle and let them know life is bigger than what they see. You know, I take them to our college university games, which might be the only time they ever go, but to give them some type of hope, like, hey, I want to be there. You know, to build something within them. So legislation, mental health, trauma. As I continue to travel across the country, I've come into communities to be able to work with those that have been impacted, knowing that even if you are a social worker and community that's been impacted, they'll probably gravitate towards me before they gravitate towards you. But what I can do is help lead them into your facility. You know, when I travel to these places, I don't come bearing my resources. I come, like I said, I come being me, making them feel comfortable, building trust. We know there's a lot of organization that comes in the moment, then they leave. And, in order to start advocating for our people and to get them in those places, it starts with trust and building relationships. So that is what I do, and just trying to make it better from the things that I experienced for the next person. So, I want families that are going through those situations to be able to lean on your loved ones in that moment, and don't be pressured to make burial expenses, this, and that, and you're still 2 days and you're still processing. So I try to take the burden off of them, even though it re-traumatizes me, but God gives me the strength in those moments to be able to help others, in those dark places. So I just show up to offer light in a place where somebody don't know what's next in life, because I was there. So, I give what I didn't have. So, and that's what I continue to do, and just being intentional in spaces and being real. And that's it, That's it.
Thank you so much to our panelists. I have a couple questions that we've prepared, but please, if something comes up, raise your hand, write an index card, whatever you feel most comfortable with. I'm going to start off with a question. I'm going to leave it up to the whole panel. Whoever likes it can answer it, but most often the response to gun violence is criminalizing individuals. However, the number of those incarcerated has not decreased related to gun violence. What do you think the response should be instead of criminalizing perpetrators of gun violence? Or could be?
What do you think the response should be?
Should be or could be? Whatever.
It's been a criminal justice response to gun violence, especially in the Black community, traditionally. But what the criminal justice system, they tend to just focus on the act after the fact, right? They don't tend to look at the conditions that have led the community to have these issues in the first place. So a public health approach is kind of trying to throw the attention back at the community, the poverty, and the other things that lead to the violence. So this public health approach is taking the attention off of the behavior and more so on what the community or what society is doing to make those conditions right for gun violence to happen. So coming at a public health approach is a different approach. It's a more constructive approach, and an approach that can't really work unless we got the kids involved.
We talk about this a lot, but one of the main components of SNUG is a program that is parallel to law enforcement. So, our participants that engage in the program, it's voluntary, and we don't work with law enforcement, but the idea is that by working with the highest risk, taking the public health approach, and working with, those that might be at risk to be, I think there's a fine line. We talk about folks are often victims and perpetrators of violence. There was a young girl that we worked with who held her brother in her arms when he died. And so, she then perpetrated gun violence, but why, right? You hold someone, you have that experience, you have trauma. So how do we address that as different than arrest and incarceration? Because where does that lead us? What happens when we take a different approach by building folks up and resourcing the community to then address this? So just sort of another way. I don't know if that answered the question, but
yeah. I mean, when it comes to that, even though aspiring social workers and social workers, the main thing they always go to mental health, right? And we've been seeing that America's been getting a lot of money in all these little pocket areas, but some of those pocket areas don't come into brown communities. So take some of that money and put it back in the community. Once we start giving people opportunities with education, job opportunities, skills, trade, maybe it'll start changing the perspective of, man, I got a job, I can't go there today. Once you make a youth feel like they're valuable, so maybe they're putting $100, hey, I help pay with groceries. It's just all about instilling some type of leadership in there, because they they don't feel that their value is in the household. So, you know, I always say with the mental health part is to add money back into the community. But we know that there's a lot of pockets that it go to. I see a lot of organizations that get this money, and I never see them in the community. It's me in the community, you know. But that's still the systemic part about that is where I can apply for the grant. They won't give it to me. They'll give it to the other community. So guess who they need to call to get in that community? Me. You know. So I tell them, nah, get in there and meet those people.
When I think the other part of it is we expect people to come to us, right? And that needs to change. I mean, one of our changes is we're pivoting to become a trauma recovery center, which means assertive outreach. So what does actually outreach and being in the community and having folks like yourself that are of the community to actually decide what that buffet of resources are versus me deciding what they should be, right?
But a lot of these organizations, they're not intentional and they really don't care about impact.
Yes.
They're about ego.
Yep, yep.
And their
We see
name.
that all over, yeah. Yeah.
So if you're about ego,
Yeah.
don't call me. 'Cause we don't got nothing to talk about.
Agree.
I'm all about impact. So if one life is worth saving. My goal is to save the world, but one life is worth saving. And if you don't think one life is worth saving, then I guess we don't need to conversate, because it could be your kid's life as well.
Absolutely. Generally, when an incident takes place, nobody does a holistic approach to pulling in the whole family. Not one person was just affected. This is gonna be from the baby to the elder. And, you know, it's like, oh, we're gonna get these charges, we're gonna get this time. And it's like, well, what happened? You know, when detectives go out to do a job, they go out to create a narrative. They don't really care what happened, why it happened. They just know it happened, and it's what we're doing. And so if we don't do prevention from the primary grades, you have a kid who lost a dad, you have a kid that lost a sibling, you had a sibling that held a sibling, you have, you know, and it's the onset of generational trauma. They don't heal what? But if we don't receive what's in front of us, you're not tough because you popped off. When you run and you don't want to take that charge, you a sucker. You ain't standing up. You just bowed out. You cowering down. That same energy you use is the same when you gotta step up to the plate and be like, you know, I gotta be accountable for my actions. I hold my kids accountable. I don't care what they did. You gotta stand up and be accountable for your actions. You made a mistake, but now this is what happened. You know, I'm a convicted felon. It kept me from a lot of things. People kept me in a position of when, you know, my record was sealed, but I went to get a job at the city. When I went to, you know, get a passport, when I went to go get kids and adopt them, they were like, oh, well, what about it?
Our past, so
Right, right. Look what I'm doing right now.
they don't never want to.
You know, people like to go back and be like, oh, I can't wait. I'm like, girl, make me famous. Tell what I did, and you see what I'm doing now? I stood on what I did, and I was a kid, but I didn't get treated like a kid because of who my father was. Because they thought that my father's reaction and the way I was raised was gonna be like, oh, lock her up right now. Because if she get loose like her dad was, oh my God. But you gotta take what you did, be accountable for what you did, and change it. Because when they come in here to see what you did, they're gonna make you a whole nother person. You a monster. You ain't have a situation. And then you gotta remember that when you do something, everybody attached to you is gonna trickle effect. So you gotta take accountability for you and everybody attached to you. Because the system wanna lock you up. They don't wanna hear you. They wanted to give me 35 years for something that everybody do. They didn't give me a youth offender. I was a teenage mother, going to ECC. They said, nope, get her to turn state evidence. At the time, they was taking women and killing them execution style. You think I'm about to tell for y'all? I was there, and that happened, and no, I'm not telling who did what. You got me? What you want? But again, y'all gotta pay attention because you'll be a case study before they bring you into a care program. Thank you.
about this right now.
Did everybody hear the question?
I say it first. I'm gonna knock it out.
Knock it out.
You got knock it out, champ. No, I mean, honestly, yo, you gotta get involved in something bigger than yourself. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, when I was younger, man, and then my friends, you know, at some point my trajectory of my life changed because, you know, I stopped doing nothing with my friends that was doing nothing. You know what I mean? So like, I got a lot of friends that was doing a lot of nothing, and I was just hanging around doing nothing, being idle. You know what I mean? And then what I started doing, I ended up with another friend who introduced me to like a program, a structured program. You know, like I viewed it as kind of boring. Like I told him, why would I go to something like that? But when I got there, you know, I started developing relationships with new kind of people. So I always had one kind of friend. I started developing new kind of friends. You know what I'm saying? So I had my street friends that's out there, and I had other friends that was interested in art. Had friends that was interested in politics that was young like me. So I started seeing something different. So what I ended up doing was just starting to join different other organizations. Some of them I didn't like and I ain't stayed with, but there was like 2 or 3 that I ended up sticking with, and then I ended up bumping into people where I developed caring relationships, people that cared about me, and then I ended up caring about them, and it changed my outlook on life because I saw something different for what my neighborhood had for me. Does it make sense?
What would I say to my younger self, or what would I change? Nothing. Everything happens for a reason. And that's where it goes back to choices and impact. You can keep going to prison until you make that right decision. You can keep going and coming back and letting the good door hit you. Or you can make that decision and say, hey, this is not it for me. I think what I am going through now, he prepared me for. But everything has a choice. I had the choice to stay angry at the world about this man that killed my father and I have no explanation. Or put that anger to the side and create a voice and help those that are in need of help. I wouldn't change nothing about, you know, sometimes it does bother me sometimes just where like certain occupation as she say like, oh, they're going to bring that up about that. But one thing about it is I always have my own businesses. But I always create my own business. I've always been a person that creates my own future. As she said, stand on, hey, I got caught, I'm going to do my time. Get it? Came home. My daughter was born. I didn't get to hold my daughter for the first 2 years because that was part of their little trying to fight me while I was in prison. But when I came home, I said, I'm not about to follow my dad's footsteps. My dad was gone my whole life in prison. I said, man, I got to break this. Came home, got away from my friends. One thing about me is I don't judge. But I hope that you can see me, and when you be like, hey man, I'm ready to get involved in some way, somehow, I'm never going to judge because I am that life. But what I am trying to do is to make you want to change yourself. Like, hey man, you shouldn't be doing this. Because we hear that all the time. Because when you approach me and say that, then I know you're ready. Like, hey man, we're doing this, and that. So, you know, I wouldn't change nothing about it because at the end of the day, I think it saved my life. It saved my life, man. And there was a lot of, you know, in prison I met a lot of great people. And unfortunately, they didn't have a support group like I had. So every time they would get out, they would come to my cell and say, damn, this is what I want to do, man. I see the positive in them. But when they come home, they just throw them out to the wolves. I mean, everything come back within 6 months. What happened? First of all, I don't have no family, no support. They got to survive by any means necessary. So what we got to do is be better on the outs, giving them proper resources to be able to be successful. You know, they say we don't judge our past here, but that's a darn lie. Man, I'm being good with my words today. That's a darn lie. But you know, I love that because people see my past, then I get to share where I've been at and where I'm going and where I'm still leading to. And, you know, so don't think that halts me or nothing like that. Basically, it just builds me up because a lot of people couldn't enter those rooms. They'd be endear me, you know. So when I speak to groups and communities or high-risk juvenile, I ain't speaking from something that I've read. I speak from something that I live. I tell a lot of the young men that come in there tough and all that, this is what I honestly tell them. Man, you might be the chick when you get in there. I'm just saying, my age group know how to fight. There ain't no weapons in the joint. I mean, you might find something here and there, but it ain't no weapons like it is out here. So, you know, hey, best man to win. And I seen that. They come in, come out, next day. I'm being real. If this is the path y'all gonna choose, I'm gonna let y'all see what it's really like. Next minute you coming out, you looking like a full female. And you only been there a week. But, you know, don't let me share something I don't know about. But, you know, that's my opinion, you know.
We only have a few minutes, so I want to make sure we get this last question in for you guys. Thank you so much for sharing. Question from the audience. This is both to Dion and to Dr. Christine Bill. Are you from Buffalo? Heard you mention Ohio a lot. Is the gun violence upbringing different from what you visualized here in Buffalo?
So, Ohio and Buffalo, when I'm here, I really feel like I'm at home. Ohio is bad right now. We're going back and forth with Chicago. 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. We are horrible right now. We are a very, 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 very red state. Our gun laws have been loosened, and I share this all the time when it comes to permitless carry and stand your ground. And my people of color think this is for them, but I'm letting them know that these bills are being passed not for you. My name is Tom and his name is Ray Ray, and we do the same thing. Tom goes home until I'm needed. Ray Ray sits in jail till they figure it out. We are not the same. And people need to understand that. And these bills that are being passed, more people are carrying these guns. They're thinking it's free range. We're just having shootings all left and right. Stand your ground, this, and that. And it is not playing out the way they thought it would play out. But our gun violence is up right now, very, very bad. And just got to continue to keep showing up and collaborating with people that want change. And hopefully that we find youth that are leaders to be ambassadors to anchor that change, you know. Like I said, we can't change what's going on. They the only one that can change that. But what we can do is be there to support whatever you need. You know, we're the foundation, you know, but it's their house they have to build. So yeah, it's bad in Ohio, but Buffalo is, when I come here, the first time I came, it felt like family. Oh, fun fact, my father's from here. When I got his death certificate, he was born here. So I'm gonna be doing some searching around too, you know. But yeah, we talked about that. So
Your family's in the room. You just
right,
don't know
right.
it.
You know, but you know, the love was receiving when I came, and you know, I hate that y'all had to be a part of that mass shooting, but also the community violence. And I just hope that we continue to all just keep working together. And you know, we can't give up. I know it looks daunting at times, but we can't give up. We can't.
Yeah, I'm from Long Island, and I came to Buffalo. I went to undergrad in Buffalo. So I went to Buff State. So I moved to Buffalo. I came to Buffalo for '96 and 2000. So you know, the gun violence going on in the black community, I don't kind of like. I try not to rank it. You know, like yo, the violence that goes on in our communities is basically for the same things. You know, basically for the same things. Something stupid. You know, somebody got embarrassed. You know. It's the same nonsense, you know, some small beefs that lead to these gun issues, right? So the same issues across all our same communities across the country over some dumb stuff. You know what I mean? So it's not that much different, and you know, and I don't think we need to be ranking and stuff. I think at the end of the day, like and based on what I was saying, man, like we gotta decide, you know, like what lane we want to be in. You know what I mean? With all this stuff going on in our community, you know, there's always opportunity to do the wrong thing, right? But, you know, what lane do you want to be in? You know what I'm saying? And if you want to be in the lane, you know, where, you know, less stress, really. Less stress, less trauma. You know what I'm saying? You want to go get involved in something because you need to figure out what you want to do in life. You got to do something different. You got to find out if you want to be an artist. Where I came from, if you want to do art, they call you Saul. If you want to play the piano, they call you Saul. Right? But the only way you're going to find out what's going to make you great in the future is if you go try and figure out something that you want to do. You got to try to do different things, and the streets is always going to be there. Our negative peers and the nonsense is always going to be there. But when do we decide that, like, yo, I'm gonna put that to the side for a couple, and I'm gonna go try this, and you might find that you like it, and then you might find that this is what you want to spend your time on. Yo, I hated school all my life. I never liked school. I got kicked out, dropped out. Where am I at now? I'm a college professor. You understand what I'm saying? And none of my friends from Long Island, and even some of the kids that I went to Buck State with would tell you, yo, I would have never thought Chris would have became a teacher. I never thought that. Yo, what are y'all gonna be? Do y'all think about it? What do you want to do? And I know it ain't being caught up in some nonsense that leads to somebody dying or you being locked up or somebody you love going through something. You know what I mean? Part of our mission in life is trying to figure out what we want to do. Y'all need to join some of these organizations. You need to do something bigger than yourself. Go out and help somebody do something and figure out what moves you. And I know, the streets ain't never, I thought the streets moved me, they ain't moved me. I'm 46 now, my friends is calling me, they asking me for bread because they done made so many bad choices, they kind of stuck. You know what I'm saying? So, what would I tell myself? And I told him, yo, go join an organization. Take a risk. Go join an organization, volunteer, do something, and find out what you're passionate about. And it's way more than what's going on in the community with our friends. It's way bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? And then when you find out, turn around and bring one of your friends with you. That's all I got for you.
Way too quick. Apologies. Next time we'll just do the whole day panel discussion.
I would suggest that the young folks here start your own organization. That's the key to all of this here. You already have the answer. Start your own organization. I run an organization called Stop the Violence Coalition. Because I wear this uniform, I'm in another organization. Because I had to level myself and go in places so I could bring it back to my community. And some people in organizations don't like that I'm in this uniform. So the hurdles you're gonna start getting out there on finances or whatever that we just talked about, those major parts. So I say to you young folks, when you go back to your school, start your own organization. Be about your own organization. Let us help you and guide you like your brother Simba's and all those other people in this community help me. Start your own organization, and now you can be about it.
Right, yes, sir.
Right?
Mr. Gary, it looks like you got your work cut out for you. I want to thank our incredible panelists, our incredible speakers for today. We're going to close out with something also art-focused. Ebony?
Right. Do you feel like this time was it spent well?